Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Theory video. So for those that are unaware, Yugioh VRains is the 6th installment of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, and only 7 episodes in, it has tackled some really dark, mature concepts. We've had people burnt to a crisp by a dragon, our main protagonist almost die in a speed duel only to be saved by our female lead, and even an attempted suicide bombing after one of the duels. It would be hard to call VRains the darkest or maturest Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever, since again, the show hasn't even been running for 2 months, but it's very fair to say the show is on pace to be the darkest, deepest show in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. But what if I told you there were even deeper, much more deeper, complex character personality issues going on with 2 of the show's main characters, Yusaku Fujiki and Aoi Zaizen, the show's male and female leads respectively. I propose that Yusaku has ASD, autism spectrum disorder, while Aoi suffers from depression and potentially paranoid personality disorder, which I will get into later in the video. I also want to say this video will contain spoilers up to Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains episode 8, so if you do not want any spoilers on what has happened in the first few weeks of the show, then now's your chance to turn off the video. Alright, let's begin. Autism, depression, and the deep complexities of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains. I really hope you all enjoy. Let's begin with Yusaku. Before we begin, I know this video might be somewhat controversial, and I just want to say I've worked with children who have autism on multiple occasions, so while I may not be the most knowledgeable on the subject, I am certainly not completely ignorant on the subject either. There have been multiple indicators that have led me to believe Yusaku has high-functioning autism. Also, Asperger's is now a form of autism as of a few months ago, just figured I'd let you guys know. I know the one symptom a lot of people might think right off the bat is that he is very awkward in social settings. Well, this is a very common symptom for people who are on the spectrum. It would be a gross misrepresentation to state that just because someone is uncomfortable in social settings automatically means they have some form of autism. There are many other behavioral symptoms that he has shown, but before I get to that, I do want to talk about Yusaku in social settings. Yusaku by far is the most antisocial protagonist we have had up to this point. Seemingly his only friend is Kusanagi, and it's pretty much the only human he feels somewhat comfortable talking to. During his duel against Go Onizuka, the two barely had any interaction during the duel, and then when he dueled Blue Angel, he literally only said one sentence directly to her the entire duel. I mean, think about that. You will be extremely hard-pressed to find any past duels in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the two characters did not say at least 5 sentences to each other. But even if you want to look past that and just say, well, Dylan, he's probably just not a talkative guy, that's fine. Some people don't like talking, and I completely get that. The episode that was most telling to me and started to seriously convince me that there was something a bit deeper going on with his complexion was episode 6. According to many sites regarding the signs of autism, people with the disability usually have extreme trouble understanding sarcasm. One of the most humorous moments from episode 6 is when Kusanagi and Ignis start teasing Yusaku about being unable to talk to a girl after they learn Aoi/Blue Angel goes to his school. The first time I watched the scene, I laughed, but upon rewatching it, I noticed something seemed a little off. If you rewatch that scene, Yusaku shows no emotion whatsoever at the joke. Kusanagi and Ignis literally roast him for like 10 to 15 seconds, and his expression never changes. No signs of anger, laughter. He just sits there with the blankest expression you will ever see. I honestly believe that this joke went completely over his head because he is incapable of grasping sarcasm or banter, which again is a sign of ASD. I think every guy has been in a situation like this where their friends tease them over a girl, and never once did I experience a situation where the person who was being taunted just blankly sat there with no emotional response. I could list a few more specific examples like this, like him stalking Aoi through the hallways, but I don't think I need to convince most people that Yusaku is not the most comfortable in social situations. I'm instead just going to move on to some other behavioral symptoms. Another major symptom of ASD is being very repetitive in your speech and actions. In fact, repetitive behavior is among the 3 most core symptoms of autism. I'm sure a few of you know the point I'm trying to make here. Something Yusaku has done since the start of the show is list off reasonings in 3s. He gives Naoki 3 reasons as to why he's a bad duelist, but then quickly gives 3 reasons as to why he's not a bad person. I'm not going to go through every single occurrence of this, but just know that he has done this 3 reasoning thing a total of 6 times, unless I miscounted, in the first 7 episodes. I know every Yu-Gi-Oh! Character has had a catchphrase, but this is different than Yuma saying, I'm going to bring it to him, or Judai/Jaden saying, gotcha. Those were all quick phrases that usually were said at the start or the end of the duel. For Yusaku, it seems this is the only way he can gather his thoughts and give all the reasonings he wants to give. He never can just blatantly talk about his thought process or why he feels the need to do something. He always has to list them off in 3s. This repetitive tic also doubles over as another symptom, which is making lists. From personal experiences, making lists and being very organized is a huge comfort thing for some people with autism. Again, every case of ASD is different, so it's tough to say if this is a surefire symptom, but I just find it interesting that his repetitive behavior is basically his character catchphrase and also the only main way for him to get out any thoughts he has. Remember how I just told you all that repetitive behavior is one of the 3 most core symptoms of autism? Well, according to autism.org.uk, another one of those core symptoms is obsession. This is another comfort thing for people who are on the spectrum. When they can hyper-focus on one thing, a lot of the time it calms them down. So is Yusaku obsessed with anything? Of course he is. He is absolutely fixated on the Knights of Hanoi. From the very first scene of the first episode, we see him dueling a knight, telling the knight that no matter where they are, he will always show up to stop them. The only reason he duels Go and Aoi is because he was tricked. Go dressed as a knight, and Ignis tricked Yusaku into thinking Aoi was a knight, which, to be fair, she kind of was. He thinks about the knights the few times we see him in class. His conversations with Kusanagi, his only friend, are almost always about the Knights of Hanoi. Now, I know the knights are a major threat to him and Link VRains, but they aren't the only key to unlocking Yusaku's past. In episode 6, Kusanagi instructs Yusaku to get close to Aoi so that they can talk to Akira, because Akira will know what happened to his brother in Yusaku's past. That line right there states that the knights are not the only route to unlocking the mysteries of the plot. So why isn't Yusaku obsessed with Akira and Soltek? If the only reason he's obsessed with the knights is to get back his past and save Kusanagi's brother, shouldn't he be just as fixated on Soltek, who according to Kusanagi has the same information and knowledge of what happened? Again, that's because there is a deeper, much more complex issue going on with his character. I know a few people might say that if Yusaku has autism, how can he be such a talented duelist and a genius hacker? Personally, I think saying something like that and assuming people with autism are dumber or less intelligent than people without autism is a horribly incorrect stereotype, but I understand not everyone knows what autism is, so some people might just be a little ignorant on the topic, which is perfectly understandable. And you know me, I always try to cover every single angle possible in these theories. I'm sure many of you guys have heard of Albert Einstein, renowned as one of the greatest physicists to ever live. Many experts believe that he suffered from high-functioning autism. Of course, it's impossible to know for sure, since autism was not a very well-known disorder back when he was alive. Sir Isaac Newton is another great example of a genius who may have been on the spectrum. Since I know a few people would think it, I just wanted to make the point that just because someone is on the spectrum does not make them any less smart than someone who is not on the spectrum. So between Yusaku's uneasy social interaction skills, his repetitive list-making, and his obsession with the Knights of Hanoi, amongst other things, I do believe that Yusaku Fujiki does have autism spectrum disorder. Alright, I know that was probably a lot to take in. I hope you guys are enjoying so far, and leave all your thoughts down below. Now let's move on to our heroine of Yugioh VRains, and that is Aoi Zaizen. These ones, maybe I don't have as much proof as the Yusaku one, but I'm very confident about the depression and the paranoid personality disorder. That one is a little tougher to prove, but so is the depression one. Anyway, let's get right to it. Even though we have only seen Aoi for 2 episodes, and she's already in a coma, lol Yu-Gi-Oh females, she has shown signs of dealing with one of the toughest and unfortunately common social issues in the world, and that is depression. Now, I do believe, like Yusaku, she has high-functioning depression, since full-blown depression pretty much cripples you and makes you unable to do anything. For starters, we have never seen her happy or genuinely smile as Aoi. We only see her smile once, and that's when she calls out Yusaku for trying to use her to get to her brother, right before she seemingly breaks down and runs off. She seems to have no friends, and the only person who she cares about is her brother, who is never home. Moreover, deep down she thinks her brother doesn't care or trust her at all, which she says to Yusaku. The only time we see her speak to her brother, not only does she sound dead inside, but her eyes start trembling, which is almost a telltale anime sign of being upset or being on the verge of tears. This, of course, happens when her brother tells her to stop being the idol of VRains, Blue Angel. So the only person she cares about is telling her to stop doing the only thing she loves, the one thing she views as an escape from reality. Not a crappy situation at all. She just looks devoid of life in some scenes, like when she's about to enter Link VRains right after the phone call with her brother. We've really only seen her in 1 episode, but in the entire episode, she just seemed so gloomy and upset. A lot of people who deal with depression in real life said to me that they felt an immediate relation to Aoi's character because of this. I myself felt a serious connection with her as well. The fact that no matter how happy and popular she is in the virtual reality world, it just doesn't translate to happiness in real life, which is obviously much more important. Hopefully Aoi gets over her internal sadness and misery, because it's tough to watch any character or human go through something like that. As for the paranoid personality disorder, this one is probably the hardest to justify. She does have almost all of the symptoms according to MayoClinic.org. You can see the first 5 of 7 symptoms fit her character perfectly. She is pretty hostile towards Yusaku the second he asks about her brother, instead of waiting and seeing where the conversation went. She clearly has mistrust towards others and believes everyone is trying to use her and deceive her to get to her brother. It's also interesting that when Yusaku brought up Akira, she almost took it as a personal attack, which is a symptom of this disorder. She talks about how no one cares for her, not even her brother, and then scurries away. While the symptoms almost sum up her episode 6 interactions perfectly, there is still a bit of a problem. And the main problem is that she's kind of justified in not trusting other people. Her whole life, people have used her for her brother or soul tech. So whether she does suffer from this or is just scarred from previous experiences is tough to tell. Still, the symptoms matched up so perfectly that I couldn't not mention it briefly. Well, that pretty much wraps things up. Thank you guys sincerely for watching. While these are things that will almost never get confirmed one way or another, I hope I convinced a few of you that there are maybe much deeper issues regarding 2 of our main characters in Yugioh VRains. I commend VRains for tackling issues like these, especially depression, which I feel is something that needs to be addressed more in pop culture and entertainment. It's something that affects so many people in the world, and the more it gets shown off and talked about, the better. Anyway, I'm rambling again. Hopefully Yugioh VRains continues to tackle concepts like these, and more importantly, continues to make us speculate like there's no tomorrow. Whether you agreed or completely disagreed, I really hope you enjoyed regardless. Leave all your thoughts down below. Have an amazing day, and thank you for watching.